Hi, everybody. Mitch I'm here. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I'm going to talk about an interesting thing that popped up in the news recently, which is voice authentication. And before I get into the details of voice authentication, let me talk about the difference between identification and authentication. So, probably you log into some websites from time to time, and in order to log into the website, you enter a user ID. Well, the user ID is your identity, and that user ID is not secret. Oftentimes, it's something like your email address. But then you have to authenticate yourself to that website, which is to prove that the person who is typing on the keyboard or tapping on the screen really is the person who they say they are. And for that, typically you use a password. So that's the distinction between identification and authentication. Identification says this is Joe who's trying to sign in. Authentication is this really Joe or not? So what some financial institutions, including the big players, are doing, and also the financial technology companies, what's called fintechs, is they're using your voice print as both your identification and your authentication. So you say, "This is Mitch," and it says, "Oh, I recognize that voice print." It lets you log in and do your banking. Let me show you a screen here real quick. Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, that makes one of the biggest AI tools, testified the other day and said, banks are still using voice for authentication, not identification. And with AI, that's just doesn't work. It is certainly convenient. There's no question about that. And the bank's main goal was and always is to reduce friction, to reduce the amount of resistance that people have to using their services. But the problem you have is if convenience means your bank account gets emptied out by some guy in North Korea, and then you have to fight with the bank to try to get your money back or your retirement account or whatever else, that's probably not a good trade-off. So, he's saying that this is, basically a bioweapon, which I completely agree with. I've been saying this for a long time. So now it's good that people have a bigger pulpit than I do are saying the same thing. And Altman says that he's talking to the Fed about this because this is a potential existential threat to the banking system. Now, if you have I guess it works both ways. If you have a small bank account with not much money in it, well, you don't want to lose any of it, right? But the hackers are probably less likely to go after you if you have $100 in the bank. It's just not worth their time. On the other hand, if you represent a company and you're in the accounting department or you're in finance or whatever, and the company has tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in the bank, whatever, and you use voice for both identification and authentication. That is a really risky move. And one thing to add, the federal laws in the United States favor consumers when they do things that are not necessarily secure. Under federal law, businesses are assumed to be knowledgeable. And so when they do what some people might call dumb things, then it's on them. The onus is on them. And the banks don't have to give you your money back. And we've had many examples that we've heard of in the past where people have sent money to the wrong place, to a hacker, and, in the tune of 5 or 6 digits, 7 digits, and they didn't get their money back. Sometimes cyber insurance will cover you, but even with cyber insurance, there's a lot of caveats there. So bottom line, you just don't want to get hacked and have to deal with all that. So the short version of this is you get to pick security or convenience. Either one, doesn't matter. But whichever one you pick, make sure you understand the risk that you are dealing with. So with that, that's all I have for the moment. And if you have any questions, obviously, you can always contact us. And until next time, stay safe.